Hey Max, how are you?
We're doing great. Everyone just had pizza right now. Wish you were here.
Okay, can you hear?
Yes.
So Max, what room have you connected both rooms, or you only gonna be on one room?
We're going to be in both right now, but I had to reboot. Right now, I'm in the social lab.
Okay, so yeah, so you are already co-host on that room over there. I'm gonna make a co-host Linda, and yeah, just let me know once you're. I will make you host.
Perfect.
Do you want me to run my own deck, or is somebody else going to run it? I'm comfortable either way.
Okay, so I'm gonna make.
The marketing and sales is first that doesn't make sense. That's how they're building something that I can use. Like they drop NFTs on it. They're deliberately constructing NFTs. It's cool. Yeah.
Bueno, una tontería, pero es un evento que tengo en Miami, en la universidad, y como lo que han liado. Todo...
Yes. If your audience works that that's where fell in love with Bitcoin, but on top of that, I was very, very close to a lot of developers that built contract books. For example, one of my good friends is some things that people don't know. It's like, for example, I got a picture with Jihan Wu. He was the CEO of Bitcoin, right? And I used to hang out with all those cats, right? But the key thing is that before Bitcoin Cash Flow, they were all the time. Everybody's trying to say, how do we disrupt Bitcoin? How do we disrupt Bitcoin? The problem with Bitcoin is very, very spring-built, block size, right? So the question is, everybody's trying to disrupt Bitcoin all the time. That's why we have over 20,000 crypto. That's why Lightning was going on. That's why Bitcoin. So there's a mining hash rate. We will become Bitcoin because of the way it works, which is where hash rate will come. So they were trying to do it. So they split out.
All right, so let's officially begin.
BSB, what do you think about
Absolutely. Welcome to the BIT Center. It's an acronym for Business Innovation and Technology, new here at NGC. And the purpose of the BIT Center is to study disruptive technologies in the area of business, analytics, data visualization. But we have different public labs, rooms. In the middle, I'm sure you've seen what I call Wall Street, where we're studying financial technology and trading. Our partner there is Bloomberg. Here is social media marketing, partners with Google, Facebook, TikTok, all to educate students and our Miami community to enhance their careers and their dreams come true. So you might recognize these two gentlemen. Their pictures are right there. George Levy, raise your hand or stand up so people can see you. Cool, and then Stefan is there. So this is Web3, the future of our future, right? So with that, I'm gonna let George, who's our first speaker. Let's get my preso up. And while you're doing that, let me start first saying thank you very much. So excited that you're here. We're talking Web3. So as we go through this, and we can actually go to slideshow, Groovy. Fantastic. Show of hands. How many of you are familiar with Web3? Okay, cool. And now I want to ask, how many of you actually understand what Web3 is, rather than just like, I've heard the term Web3? Cool. And mind you, because this is all going to be important as we go through this thing, because the key thing is, as we go through this thing, I want to actually start putting in context how to get into Web3, but I first want to define clearly what Web3 really means, and I want to put it in the context of, exactly what Web3 means, at least on a personal basis. Okay, so key things I want to tell you how this whole thing plays out. Okay, so this is me on Facebook, right? How many of you have dealt with posting something on Facebook and then all of a sudden Facebook takes your content down? Dealt with that? Got it. So this was, to me, when we were in the middle of the pandemic, talking about COVID and COVID positive cases. Did you deal with that situation? Whenever you talk COVID and then all of a sudden Facebook's like, shut up, right? Cool. Next one. So this is me sharing, far less people died from the flu since the coronavirus. And that was true when you looked at the flu numbers and go, and I share that, boom, they shut me down. That was a different one. False information, right? Fact checkers jump in. Let's go to the next one. Another video is getting banned, but you're not delusionally following the current narrative being told whatever that content be. Now, mind you, are you seeing a pattern of me? I'm like, I used to be able to say what I thought. I mean, there's free speech. This is America, right? I'm not saying anything illegal. I'm just sharing, let's go to another one. Here, we're talking about the masks, right? Partly false information. Now you're seeing all these are happening. April, May, July, cool. Let's keep going. Then I can put another one, right? Here come the doctors, the doctor putting, that gets showed against their community standards. But you're seeing how all this is getting worse. Now, key thing I want to point out to you, all of a sudden, update to our terms in October. Everything changes, right? It's like, there were some things we could do to you, but in October, we can do more stuff to you, right? Because Facebook runs that show. Go to the next one. So Facebook puts a threat against me. You got to understand, I'm an online business. My company, and by the way, we're a different BIT. It wasn't intentional. We're blockchain and secure technology, but we're an online business. We thrive on our online presence, and a lot of it is our Facebook marketing, right? So Facebook threatens us. Now, mind you, I'm not posting as BIT. I'm posting as George Levy, but they're saying, well, we don't care. We're going to shut down your business, right? So the key point I want to tell you is that Facebook limit function activated on my posts and replies. I guess the user now welcome here. Mind you, here's the key thing. At the end of the day, it's me as a human being saying, hey, I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm just saying what I think, right? Bottom line, they shut me down. They shut down my business. They turned off all my ads, and they basically just say, you know what, we really can't deal with you. Either you shut up, shape up, or you're no longer going to be allowed to advertise on Facebook. Now, you have to understand, I'm an online business. I thrive on this platform. I'm not doing anything illegal. But according to Facebook, I'm not allowed. That's where Web3 steps in, okay? So what really boils down to is that this can apply to many other things. And a big threat that we got right now is that, let's look at money, right? So keeping, I'm a big believer in Bitcoin. Any Bitcoiners in here? Woo, got it. So key things, I own my Bitcoins. What does that really mean? I have my own wallet. I control my keys. I don't have my coins in Coinbase. I don't have my coins in, nothing against the exchanges, the centralized exchanges, by the way, because they got my coins. But I have them in my wallet. I control my own keys, right? So nobody can shut down my wallet. I actually have them offline in a hardware wallet. Nobody can touch that thing. No hacker can reach it. Key things with that. My bank, if they don't like me, they shut down my accounts. They can just take me out, which has happened to several political candidates that I know. And then when they get down, who jumps in? Bitcoin, because you can still donate via Bitcoin. And that's the key point. Centralization gives them the power. Decentralization gives us the power. And that's where Web3 comes in, okay? So we're going to go through 3 key items. I'm going to start with a brief history of the Web3 and the evolution towards Web3, how we got here. From there, I'm going to get into how to get into Web3, which is the point of all this, because there's different ways you can get into Web3, okay? Different opportunities for us. And I'm going to end with some free resources or valuable things I want to share, okay? So when we go into the brief history of the web and the evolution of Web3, I want to talk about the value capture, really what we can do. The value that, oh, yeah, that's 100%, right? So when we really look at the web, let's look at what would be the World Wide Web 1.0. So if you look back, you look at Netscape. It was the first browser, right? So if any of you remember all the way back there,
right? Before we had the web as we know it today, all you could really do was like get on a web, on a web browser, Netscape, and you could see some pictures, you could click on some links, you could do some stuff. That was Web 1.0, okay? From there, we moved to Web 2.0. Now, Facebook really exemplified that. There were other players. We had MySpace before. By the way, a little known side on fact. I used to run a platform called MySpace Mastership, where I taught people how to pimp your profile and make thousands of friends on MySpace. And that was my gig, right? And I got it and I started getting into it, and then my Facebook killed out MySpace. But here's the key thing I want to tell you. It's a power back, right? In this space, there's the Facebooks of the world, there's the YouTubes of the world, right? There's the Microsofts of the world. My company, I was a co-founder of an internet startup, and we were bought out by Microsoft. We eventually became what's now MSN Latino, right? So I ran Hotmail, I ran MSN Messenger, I ran all those for like the whole Latin America region and US Hispanics, right? But here's Microsoft, and then comes Facebook to step into it, right? So it's like these centralized entities are battling, but we're the products, right? So we're the ones that our page views, whenever we drive in our pictures, they're selling advertisement against us. We're not getting any of that money, right? And that's the key point I want to tell you. That's Web 2.0. Interactive, cool, but you run into the issues that we've got. I can talk according to what they let me talk. And the moment I get not to their style, I'm out. Okay. Web 3 is totally different. By the way, that's actually the logo for Mana, which is the cryptocurrency for a metaverse called Decentraland. So Web 3.0 is a different space. I'm going to tell you exactly what the variations for these are. So the key things I want to tell you is that as you go through these, the concept of the value that you can capture as a user increases. And what I want to point out to you is that once you get to Web 3.0, you have true ownership. So key things. Okay, how many of you here have bank accounts? Yes, that makes sense? And mind you, this is a really interesting conversation because I would bet that more people here have bank accounts than Bitcoin wallets. Would that be a fair assumption? That's not the case in El Salvador. In El Salvador, more people have Bitcoin wallets than bank accounts. Isn't that interesting? Now, El Salvador is interesting because in El Salvador, Bitcoin is legal tender. El Salvador has two legal tenders. One of them is US dollars, one of them is Bitcoin. And you can go, if you want to go to Starbucks, you can pay in Bitcoin. If you got to go, by the way, key thing, I went to, I used to travel quite a bit before COVID. And I was Arnhem in the Netherlands. And I went to Burger King. And that was 2017. I was paying for Bitcoin. I was paying in Bitcoin for a Whopper meal, right? And I do that all the time. I go to restaurants all the time. There's a really good place here, by the way, called Latin Grill, South Miami. Take Bitcoin, all sorts of cryptocurrencies, great food. But the key point I want to tell you is this. All the money that you have in those bank accounts, you don't have that money. Your bank has it. Just letting you know. So all the money that I have in the banks right now, I don't have that money. My banks have it. So how does that translate? And I was saying that story earlier. I had to pay for a deposit. I went for an apartment, right? My landlord needed to take a payment from me, but he wouldn't take a personal check, and I didn't have enough cash. I go to an ATM, the ATM only gives me $500, right? So I got plenty of cash in the bank, but I can't get a certified check. But wait, I have an account at TD Bank, so I go to TD Bank. Well, it turns out I only had $2,000 at TD Bank. The brunt of my money was in change, but they're closed on Sundays. Problem line is this: the banks have my money hostage. I don't have it. I can't pay the deposit. I could have solved it just paying Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't care. 3 a.m., 4 a.m. doesn't matter. I got the Bitcoins. That's the thing. The bankers don't like that. Bankers and institutions don't like that because we give them the money. They control our money, right? So that's where Web3 comes in. Fair? So key things I want to point out to you is, and by the way, I'm also thinking that I used to always be afraid of, I used to work for Microsoft. Yes, I could say some things while I worked at Microsoft. There were things I couldn't say while I worked at Microsoft, right? And that's the thing. Why? Because they control me. And mind you, nothing against Microsoft, but the answer is all of these machines that run Windows right now, I'm trusting that they're not copying my info. Right, because we do, we trust that, right? And that's the key point I want to point out to you. When you start looking at the world from that perspective, you start realizing that the world has gotten increasingly centralized. And then now we have an opportunity to get decentralized, okay? So let me go into the next slide if I actually can get this thing to. Where'd you go, baby? Aha, cool. So Web 1.0. In Web 1.0, we could read. If you can remember that far back, you can go to different websites. Everything was written in HTML. You could put some GIFs, you could put some JPEGs, and you could just read. But you could only post if actually you could program HTML. Then you could write a basic website. Not everybody did that. It was very, very difficult to do that. Web 2.0 gave you the opportunity to read and write. That's why now everybody posts on Twitter, everybody posts on Facebook, you post your Instagrams and all that stuff. But guess what? You're giving all your content to all those companies, right? So all of your family pictures, like Facebook. Facebook has every single precious memory of my family and my daughter and the birth of my daughter and stuff. They have all that, right? And they keep going like, they have all that. I'm trusting they're not going to screw with it, but I don't know what they're doing with it, right? So when we go with it in Web 3.0, you can read and write and you can own. So how many of you actually know the concept of an NFT? NFTs? Cool. Good call. Right. So NFTs are non-fungible tokens. The thing with a non-fungible token is, if you really think it through, the price of Bitcoin is volatile, yes? But when you think about it, one Bitcoin right now is probably, I think it's around 20K, or 20K, it's been hovering around 20K. Right. But let's say, even at the top of the price point of a 20K Bitcoin was at about 60K, 60 something K, right? Here's the thing I want to tell you. That's one Bitcoin. One NFT sold for over $68 million. Right? And it was a beetle, 5,000 every day. Yeah, it was a beetle. So the key point I want to tell you is that an NFT, what's different about an NFT is that an NFT is unique. There's one, right? Like the Mona Lisa, there's only one Mona Lisa. If you have a Bitcoin, well, if you have 10,000 Bitcoins, each one of those Bitcoins is the same as the other Bitcoin, right? So yeah, one Bitcoin could be worth 40K, 20K, whatever it is, but there's only one Mona Lisa. And an NFT can let you do that. So when you go into the digital space, you can literally own a digital asset. That's what's beautiful about all this space. So the medium that you're dealing with, there's static text when you're in Web 1.0, right? Like I mentioned. In Web 2.0, you can put some interactive content, like in Facebook can let you interact with videos and things change, whatever. In Web 3.0, you can have virtual economies. So you can be inside the metaverse and you can literally, like, you can own a yacht, right? There's yachts for sale inside the metaverse, right? And what's cool about it is that if you're inside the metaverse and you were inside the metaverse and somebody has a yacht, well, you don't have a yacht. I want that yacht. But the only way you can get that yacht is if you actually create an NFT for that yacht, right? And the answer is, it's kind of like in the physical world. I want a Ferrari. Well, I can't just have a Ferrari unless I buy a Ferrari, right? But there's commerce. Somebody will build you that yacht, right? So these opportunities, and what's cool about it is that you can sell your NFTs in the digital space, which you can turn into cash, which you can spend in this physical world, which is what's cool about it. You can have your whole business running online, and you can have money that you can spend in the physical world. Okay? The next one is the organization of these. So in Web 1.0, you had companies. You had the Netscapes of the world. You had the companies for the different devices you work with. Web 2.0 changed these to platforms, right? So now you got the platforms that formerly Facebook, now Meta, right? So you're in the platform. You're in the Facebook platform, and then you're working with Instagram. Now they're trying to get you into the metaverse under the Meta brand, which, by the way, they bought. How many of you ever played Second Life? Second Lifer? Cool. Second Lifer was hot. I used to love Second Life. And then now Facebook bought it. So now what used to be, to me, that was the first true metaverse. The first true metaverse was Second Life. I always used to love being a Second Life. Yeah. So the thing is, like, in Web 3.0, you have networks. Now, the beauty of a network is that a network can be decentralized, right? So for example, I'm part of the Bitcoin network. And what I'm saying is, like, I have a full node that runs in my house. That node is running at home. I didn't have to ask permission to be running that node. That node is all day long just verifying and validating transactions. A bunch of my friends are also miners, right? So they're running mining rigs. They didn't have to ask permission to become Bitcoin miners. I didn't have to ask permission to run a node in my house. Nobody can actually turn off my computer. I can choose to turn it on if I want. Where you see, there's something very different as opposed to a platform where Mark Zuckerberg wakes up one morning and says, you know what? This guy George Levy, I want to get rid of this dude. Turn off all his ads. Screw him, right? They can do that. So The next angle that I want to point out to you is the infrastructure. The infrastructure is Web 1.0 was built on personal computers. Everything we were doing, like my computer, I would run it at home, I would do my HTMLs, I'd have to find my own server, I'd have to find where I'm doing it. In the Web 2.0, we're moving on to the cloud and mobile, right? So for example, a lot of my sites, they run on different cloud services, Amazon Web Services. Well, I know several people that have had their Amazon Web Services turned off, right? When you're running on all these platforms, it's controlled by centralized entities. And if they don't like you, they shut you down. Web 3.0 runs on blockchain networks. Nobody can shut down the Bitcoin network. And I tell it, like right now, I believe last time I checked, there were over 14,000 different full nodes in the world running right now. And they're all decentralized. Nobody really owns all those, it's just different networks. And even if you try to take down a sector of them, as long as you still have one or two, everybody has an identical copy of the whole Bitcoin blockchain. I have one running in my house. So the whole world could blow up. And as long as I have my computer at home, hey, there's a full copy of the Bitcoin network, right? The Bitcoin blockchain. And the final thing I want to point out to you is that we began with a decentralized angle. The whole idea originally about the web was all about the free exchange of information, right? So key things, you could send messages to other people, people could send files, you could do that. It all goes out even further to BBSs. Remember, did anybody have any dial-ups? I used to have like the phones, like a modem, right? And the key point was like, my BBSs were run by friends, like local friends that just had a computer running in their house. We then moved to a centralized, in Web 3.0, we're moving to decentralized. So there's a reason where I'm going all this. The tendency is to go here, but even more important than that, and I'm putting this on a personal basis, if we don't find a way to go here, this is checkmate. And I'm saying it from the standpoint of, think about it right now. I can pull out my wallet and I can pay you cash, right? There is such a thing as cash. When you get rid of the cash, everything's here. And when the bank doesn't like me or the government doesn't like me with a central bank digital currency, they turn down my wallet, I can't feed my family, right? And that's the key goal I want to tell you. This whole battle of moving to Web3 is a big, big deal. And that's why I'm really excited we're having this conversation, okay? And Bitcoin's part of that game. So anyway, how do we get into Web3? Key points that I want to point out to you. One of them is to be a user, right? So another one's to be a developer, which is the key point. I know we have several developers in here. I looked actually, just in the US, there's over 300,000 jobs for Web3 developers, by the way. Just letting you know that. And I'm saying, a lot of people are thinking, well, the crypto space is dead, blockchain's dead. No, the job market is still fully alive. Last time I checked, there were over 20,000 jobs in blockchain, and a lot of them are marketing jobs in blockchain. Yeah, Coinbase is having a challenge, but a lot of these startups, they were funded well before the actual meltdown. So what I'm saying is like, there's a lot of jobs and some new jobs are being posted. So that's another point I want to point out to you. And the last one is to be an investor, right? So I know that there are several investors in here that have invested into different Web3 platforms. So user, that's me. That's my metaverse avatar, right? So the key point I want to tell you is if you ever run into me in, this is actually my Ready Player One. This is actually my Ready Player Me, not Ready Player One. That was a cool movie. My Ready Player Me avatar. This is one avatar through Ready Player Me that I can actually use in multiple different metaverses. Because that's the other thing that people don't understand. There's not just one metaverse. There's multiple metaverses, right? And I can be in Decentraland, and I can be in the Sandbox, and I can go to Axie Infinity. I can be in different metaverses, right? But I can be the metaverse version of me, right? And I can pimp this out, just like I said in my space. I can be totally styling with glasses, I can wear shorts, I can do whatever I want. It's a totally different version. I can be a lot more muscular if I want. Key points about the developer point. This is the one I want to show you right now. What developer jobs in the USA? This is actually one of the ones I want to point out. 375,000 jobs right now. So key points I want to tell you. Oh, and another thing that's important about a lot of these, actively recruiting. The thing about it all is, if you actually even have the job skills in your, in your resume, and you can prove that you actually have those skills, recruiters will just chomp all over because there's a bunch of jobs that need to get filled. Okay, just let you know that. Just like Product Club, Blockchain Institute of Technology does certifications, so letting you know that. And the other key point that I want to tell you right now, the global Web 3.0 market size is expected to reach $81.5 billion by the year 2030. One thing I want to point out that you've probably heard that number 2030 over and over and over again. And the key point is there's this big move to either everything's going to go fully centralized by the year 2030. That's the big vision that you hear from the World Economic Forum. You will own nothing and you'll be happy, right? And that's the key point. That's the vision. The end goal from the 2030 vision for the World Economic Forum is everybody goes decentralized. Sorry, not decentralized, sorry. Fully centralized, and you go on basic income, right? You won't be able to have a job. You won't be able to have anything. You'll be allowed to have certain things. That kind of feels like being on a Facebook platform. I'm allowed to do some things, but other things I'm not allowed. And the answer is, if we decentralize the hell out of it, we have a way to fight that. Yeah. Live transcription DNA. Okay. And then this is the paranoid version of me. Is this Facebook trying to break down everything I say to hold it against me in a court of law? I don't know. But that's where the world is heading. So key points. Binance raised 500 million to invest in Web3 startups. That's another thing you need to understand. A lot of these investments are coming from a lot of different areas, and there's a lot of people that are fighting this battle. You have to understand there's a lot of people on this side, the Bitcoiners, the metaverse people, because we see it all. A lot of us are actually, I'm part of the battle in my own way. I'm not Binance, but we're fighting the same battle. We're all kind of like saying, hey, dude, we got to find a way to like bring power to us again. That's where crypto comes in, decentralization. Because it's a big, big battle that we're dealing with, okay? So I think I'm getting right to the end, which is the key points I want to point out to you. I want to share with you some links about how you can follow me with blockchaininstitute.com. That's my YouTube competitor channel. If you go to odyssey.com, how many here have ever gone to Odyssey? ODYSEE.com. No? It's a decentralized video sharing platform that competes with YouTube. There's a full identical replica of my entire YouTube channel on my YouTube channel is youtube.com/GeorgeLevy. I got 26,000 subscribers on that channel. There's all my videos. I think there's like 300 and something videos in there. But there's a bunch of videos you'll never see because they were taken off platform by YouTube. YouTube doesn't allow me to have them. My Odyssey channel has a full replica of everything that's on YouTube, but it's actually including the ones that are banned and not allowed on YouTube. Another thing that's interesting, if you view my channels on odyssey.com, you actually earn cryptocurrency. They have a cryptocurrency that they provide you with, which you can actually go to a crypto exchange and you can actually trade it, and you can cash out of it, and you can actually get fiat for it.
Is it theta?
Huh?
Is it based on theta? Is it based on the cryptocurrency theta?
No, it's actually LBC is what it's, I think it's actually what it's called. It's actually, the protocol is actually called Library, LBRY, and I'm pretty sure the cryptocurrency is called LBC. But if you go to the odyssey.com/GeorgeLevy, if you go there, you can actually watch my videos and you can actually earn crypto, which is really, really cool. And there's a masterclass that we provide for you. You can follow me on Twitter, on YouTube, but key point I want to point out to you is that from all of these things, these are my sites, right? But things I want to tell you, I rely on Twitter, I rely on YouTube, I didn't show you my Facebook, I don't have a Facebook page too, but I don't really own those, they own those. So I'm kind of like, at some point you may not see me there anymore, so I'd rather you know me on the other places. And in a nutshell, that's me. Those three angles I want to point out to you. You can be a user, you can be a developer, or you can be an investor. But I really want you to take part in this whole Web3 revolution. Today, you're going to be listening to some really, really key people. You're actually next, Nebula, right? Nebula is doing a very, very interesting thing about actually applying decentralization to a lot of areas. I was saying really brilliant stuff. So thank you very much. Wishing you the very best, and thank you for the opportunity. I'll say, if you ever follow my YouTube channels, one thing I always say, we're changing the world one blockchain at a time. Keep that in mind.
Thank you. Thank you very much, George. Thank you. Was a great job. So a little bit about us, Nebula. We are a decentralized solutions and talent marketplace. We're building an application that will allow individuals to be able to remove intermediation and avoid these centralized marketplaces. So a little bit about what we're trying to do. So we're trying to build an application that will allow us to reimagine the business contract. So a little bit about decentralized marketplace. But before I even start there, you know, in the reality of our world is we're moving to an evolution to Web 3.0, decentralization. And decentralization is creating an opportunity to create solutions and architectures that are unlike nothing else we have seen before. So our focus is creating a decentralized marketplace for the future of commerce. But before I start and moving into this space, let's talk about a little bit what's the reality of contracting, right? Contracting becomes a big issue in the real world. When you have a contract, and you're contracting your buyer or seller, it doesn't matter who you are. If you have a lot of money, you can drop the contract, say, you know what, soon. And what do you do with it? You know, if you are a small business or individual or gig economic worker, you have to either sue the other party and say, okay, or you have to take the loss. And the reality of this world is most people out there is trying to intermediate and try to take advantage of it all the time, right? So, and we start talking about decentralized marketplaces, the same thing happens. We think about the marketplace as Facebook, right? Amazon Web Services. Let's say IBM marketplace has applications for marketplace. But what happens with marketplace? A marketplace is the individual that's going to contract, control your life in what you can do and what you can post, and how much they're going to charge you, right? So if you want to work and you're a gig economic worker, you want to go to a marketplace for work, you have to pay 10% charges. Or you have a product and you want to put that product in Amazon Web Services. How much does that pay? Will they allow you to put the product as a competitive product for them? Most probably not, right? So decentralization is changing the dynamic. How you're going to be able to take advantage in this Web 3.0 ecosystem, right? So marketplaces, interesting enough, you mentioned billions of dollars. As per McKinsey in 2030, marketplace is about $17 trillion worth of opportunity. I'm not joking, $17 trillion for B2B marketplaces. So, you know, marketplaces right now are the center of control of society. Web 3.0 is bringing that a change, a drastic decentralization, removing intermediation. So, you know, I was going to go about what's blockchain 101, but I'm sure you guys understand blockchain 101. I don't know if you guys have a complete need to understand 101, but there's a solution that's very well established in blockchain that shows how intermediation is doing. Supply chain is a market that has been always centralized and controlled by wholesale, right? Supply chain, if you're a farmer, you're a consumer, it's very difficult to make money in that process because there's always someone in the middle. But through blockchain, there's right now technology that can allow you to create a value, economic value to the individual, to remove the intermediary through blockchain smart contracts. So blockchain allows to create a value space for the individual that allows to sell from the consumer, from the producer to the consumer without having that intermediary. So by us having that example, we're looking at transforming that, but instead of doing supply chain of goods, we're looking at supply chain of services and solutions and applying that same technology that's well established right now in the market. Yeah, blockchain has many examples of what we can do. Digital currencies, what you guys have seen with Bitcoin, Ethereum, pesos, right? You also have e-commerce, global payments you can do. Record keeping, blockchain is bringing technologies such as decentralized identity, sole sovereign identity, that allows you to present information that's owned by you, no one else. So if you are a programmer, you have a skill of programming in C, and you are 100 points good. You can put a self-sovereign identity, present that, and be certified that's true and has veracity behind it. You can present your driver's license or your social security without having to present those documents. The self-sovereign identity will maintain that information and serve you as an identification without having to expose everything else. Your medical records. Securities, they are equity in private markets can be also part of blockchain space. And what's more important, smart contracts, and that is what we're building right now. Yeah, a smart contract that allows the removal of intermediation when you are a talent or you have a solution for that to be expressed. So, what's decentralized marketplaces? My colleague Renato Garro, I don't know if Renato is in the
Hey, Stefano.
yeah. Okay. Hey, Renato. Renato is going to take over now and he's going to present the rest of the presentation for decentralized marketplaces. I think Nebula, we're building a solution talent marketplace that is looking to remove intermediation and bring value to the professional that has talent and skills and without intermediation. So you don't have to suffer to what traditional marketplaces do, decentralization. So thank you very much. Renato, go ahead and continue with the presentation.
Thanks, Stefano. Stefano, please stay on so you can switch the slides because I don't think I can switch unless Max is going to do it.
Okay, I can.
Okay, great. Yeah, you can keep presenting the same slide deck. Okay, guys. So nice to meet you. I'm Renato, one of the co-founders at Nebula. Hopefully, you can see the slide deck. But to start on decentralized marketplaces, here as you guys are developers or trying to get into Web3, we're gonna try to explain to you guys kind of like how you can start building your own decentralized marketplace platforms and what are the components that we're using at Nebula to build our own marketplaces and what are the differences between centralized marketplaces and decentralized marketplaces. So on centralized marketplaces, we all know like marketplaces like Amazon.com, eBay, or any other marketplace that we use today, right, on Web2 technologies, they're operated by a centralized entity, right, like a single company or a few set of entities, legal companies that are operating this marketplace, right? So they make all the decisions, all the rules and guidelines are decided by them. We don't have a say as users to be able to incentivize them to shape the way they make the decisions on who gets in the marketplace, what are the decisions for getting into the marketplace, who should be the buyers and sellers, what are the fees and so on. All the gains are centralized, meaning that they keep all the gains from operating the marketplace. Like the buyers and sellers don't have a way to, even though they participate in the marketplace, find ways to monetize this marketplace. And then they normally have higher fees. Normally the transaction fees for centralized marketplaces are higher than decentralized marketplaces because they have all the incentives to basically create a monopoly style marketplace. On next slide, we will see how decentralized marketplaces have different benefits. For example, like on the decentralized marketplace, you don't really have a single company that handles the operation of the marketplace. There is no single intermediary, meaning that there is no single person or company that is in the middle between the buyer and the seller. Normally, there is like lower transaction fees, and the rules and guidelines of the marketplace should be normally more transparent because everything is in the blockchain, everything should be open source, and like all the participants in the marketplace should be able to know what's happening when it comes to establishing new rules and guidelines. And decentralized ownership is a possibility because you can be a part owner of the marketplace as the marketplace becomes more and more decentralized, maybe through a token offering or something like that. So different dynamics. When we look at the components that we see, as far as like Nebula, for example, building this decentralized solutions in Italian marketplace and other marketplaces that you guys can start building, right? Like, you know, you can start thinking about anything that could be business to consumer marketplaces or business to business marketplaces. You really have different components. One of them is the smart contract engine. The smart contract engine handles the automatic payments using a smart contract to make sure that you can do a P2P transaction without an intermediary and do a transaction that could be borderless transaction using crypto, or if you want to do, you could also do like a fiat to fiat transaction. Then you have a matching algorithm. The matching algorithm matches the buyer and the seller, or the buyer intent and the products and services that they're looking on the marketplace. So that's another component that's critical for this marketplace to work. Then you need decentralized reputation, because on a centralized marketplace, you have a reputation engine that's centralized, and normally these marketplaces, they sometimes let's say they're not the most transparent when it comes to how the reputation is handled. Like we have seen, for example, on platforms like Amazon.com or eBay, normally like reputation doesn't match the real experience. And this is because there is incentives behind the reputation engine for decentralized marketplaces to make sure that most of the sellers have good reputations. On a decentralized marketplace, because it's decentralized and it's immutable on the blockchain, it's less possible for the reputation to not be representative of the real reputation that you would experience on the marketplace. Then you have decentralized dispute resolution. When you transact, for example, on eBay and something goes wrong, then eBay handles the dispute resolution, right? They decide whether you're right or wrong, buyer or seller. On a decentralized marketplaces, this is handled by a third-party system, and it's decentralized as well. So then they have to make sure that the transaction was done properly, and the marketplace, even that is decentralized, wouldn't have a way to say whether one ruling is right or not. It's decentralized as well. So it gives more transparency and power to the user, that the decision is made to following the facts as best that it can be followed based on the documentation that's provided on the marketplace. The next one is you have the ability to transact on crypto. So if you want to transact not only using fiat and pay for those high transaction fees on traditional payment gateways, you have the ability to do P2P borderless transactions using crypto. And that gives you more flexibility to interact with new markets, faster settlement of funds, and immediate transactions using the smart contracts. And finally, yes, you can, even if you're decentralized, you don't have to be only decentralized when it comes to transacting in crypto. You can also enable the kind of like a Web2 functionality of having the ability to pay with traditional fiat using traditional payment gateways. So you can have a hybrid model basically. So imagine marketplaces that you guys can build using this kind of like main components. And yeah, there is a lot of opportunities there, right? Like if you see any successful marketplace in Web2, you can imagine a version of that in Web3 that would have the benefits that we were explaining before. So how is Nebula building a next generation decentralized marketplace? What we're building is we're building a decentralized solutions in Italian marketplace that is essentially tackling the problems that you're going to see here today, which is we have a lot of learning platforms, and the crypto industry is growing it's growing exponentially. We see a lot of opportunity in the Web3 space. There's a lot of talent gaps when it comes to Web3 talent. A lot of companies are looking to find this Web3 talent, and unfortunately, there is few platforms that are able to provide this connection to the talent. There's emerging platforms that are trying to fill in gap, but still there is really no clear solution on how can you enable this dynamic talent space and enable smart contracts to be able to contract talent in a dynamic way. And then we see like the high-end technology talent coming in from, let's say, the more traditional high technology world, like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and others, Amazon, moving into Web3 because there is more opportunity, there is more exciting projects, there is more upside for this talent, even though we're in, like, let's say, in kind of like a little bit of kind of like a crypto winter time frame right now, but it's a time to build. So then it's a good opportunity to start getting into the space to showcase your skills and find the opportunities that are out there. So we're trying to tackle on this opportunity. We're a Miami-based blockchain company. Where the intention is to build a global marketplace to help companies to innovate and contract solutions and talent seamlessly using the smart contracts. So this is a quick video on Nebula, so I'll let it play. So go ahead, Stefano.
We are Nebulae, a technology for good company. Our vision is to level the playing field for everyone transacting technology solutions or talent. Whether you're a technology freelancer looking to find a good paying gig, or a multi-billion-dollar company looking to find the best-in-class technology solutions on the market. To achieve our mission, we are building a Web3 solution and a talent marketplace on top of blockchain technologies. The Nebulae Marketplace, powered by DSTM technology, will allow companies, technology providers, and talent to transact in a single web and mobile platform, which will democratize access and allow far more fair, transparent, and efficient B2B transactions. Here is one example of how it will work. Imagine a Fortune 1000 company looking to buy technology solutions and/or procure talent. Today, they have a really hard time finding the right technology providers, as well as talent to develop a new intellectual property or work on existing company projects. Once the talent or solution is found, it is extremely difficult to engage in a contract with any party, and yet alone multiple parties for a single project. Through our marketplace, companies can submit a request for solutions or talent, which will be broadcast to thousands of technology talent and solution providers to look for the best match. This saves time, is an efficient process, and reduces costs for everyone, while still giving the smallest of companies or freelancers that chance to compete. Want to know more? Please check out our next video. But in the meantime, please visit us at netcapital.com/companies/nebulae.
Great. So there you see a kind of like a quick video that explains what we're doing. And yeah, our vision is to create the first global technology solutions talent marketplace that allows organizations, solution providers, talent to transact more efficiently and securely without intermediation. And how we're doing that is through a combination of technologies that I was explaining before. And just super quickly on who's behind this project. Stefano, go next, please, on the leadership team. Yeah, we have a team of senior members that have been in the technology space for several years in companies such as Capgemini, Microsoft, Ernst & Young, and other companies, an advisory team that has exited multiple startups, has worked for a startup such as Monster.com, and a PhD in computer science, and working for Merrill Lynch and Citibank when it comes to financial expertise. So very solid team. Next slide. And the team is actually, most of it is based in Miami. We have a quick demo that we would like to show you on how the platform looks like today. And you may see like, oh, this is a Web3 platform. Maybe it looks complicated, but it's very simple platform to interact with. So please go next. Right, so this is the marketplace, right? So imagine similar to Fiverr, Upwork, right? But those are kind of like mainly for Web2 technologies. Here you would be able to see all the talent that is available in the marketplace. So imagine if you're a developer, IT pro, and you would like to get into this marketplace, you will be able to showcase your skills, be able to be hired using a smart contract. Next. You would be able to specify the right, as you're hiring the talent, how much you can put the details on the request, how much you want to pay per hour, the timeline, and so on. Click next. And then after that, the transaction can be settled in the blockchain, ensuring that the smart contract is created where the funds are transferred in an escrow from the company that's hiring to the talent. And then once the talent delivers the services, then the company verifies that everything looks good, is good to go, and then the payment is automatically settled to the talent. So a very efficient process when it comes to handling this, with lower fees compared to like Upwork and Fiverr that charge up to 30% transaction fees. So click on next on that one. This would be the view of the talent, right? So you would be able to see how many jobs are coming into you, how much money you made, whether in fiat and crypto, and what are the projects you're working on with you as a single talent, or you can work with other talent that may be in the marketplace. So you can crowdsource basically and combine forces, join forces with multiple people to work on bigger projects together. And that kind of like, it's a beauty of that. And finally, solutions, right? So like if imagine your talent and you develop like your own library, your own AI model, or your own API, you could be able to monetize the solutions on the marketplace using the smart contracts as well. So then this makes it easy for companies that are maybe want to get started with something that has been pre-developed and they don't want to do it from scratch. Then talent has the ability to post those solutions in the marketplace. And then this would be kind of like the view of a solution provider, which could be a system integrator, managed service provider, or a company like that, that has, let's say, people under their company that are working on technology projects. They could also complete the projects that are requested from companies that are looking to drive innovation in the marketplace. So this is used by companies that not necessarily have to be in Web3. Company like let's say Coca-Cola, GE, or any Fortune 1000 company that may want to use the Nebula marketplace to tackle into the Web3 talent space to be able to innovate faster, to do it, even though not necessarily all the project has to be Web3 in its entirety. So this is kind of like a good bridge into having companies that are looking into Web2, Web3 space, and how can they get started with that. So when it comes to competition, we have a different perspective here. So we have solutions marketplaces and talent marketplaces. We see talent marketplaces like Upwork and Fiverr being more centralized marketplaces. Nebula would be kind of like a hybrid between solutions marketplaces and talent marketplaces in a very distinct and differentiated spot when it comes to other even Web3 platforms that are being developed today. Mainly there is other platforms that are focusing on the talent space, even if they're Web3, but we're looking at it differently because we're really looking at the solutions that can be created on the marketplace, and talent becoming the engine to create the solutions. So we're launching our Talent DAO. So if you're interested in getting into the Talent DAO, there is interesting opportunities for you. So we're going to share a QR link for you guys to join the DAO. One of the benefits could be work monetization through the marketplace. You can join the beta program and be one of the early adopters of the marketplace. Allow us to get your feedback when it comes to the marketplace functionality and how should we develop new functionality in the marketplace, so you can have a say on the future of the marketplace. Learning opportunities, because we will partner with institutions like Miami-Dade College, FIU, and other institutions to be able to provide new learning opportunities to get into Web3, and ability to get sponsored build-a-thons and challenges to be able to build your own technologies that then you can showcase on the Nebula marketplace to monetize it yourself. Building new emerging technologies, we're looking at the Soulbound protocol and other protocols that are interesting to us. And we expect this talent marketplace and the Talent DAO to be able to join forces to create impact on the Web3 space. And then finally, the Nebula token drop. Nebula plans to distribute, let's say, tokens from when we release the tokens to the members of this Talent DAO based on their contribution on the DAO. So on the next slide, you will see a QR code. So let's wait a little bit, maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds for you guys to take a picture of that. If you fill in the information and you enter your public wallet address, you will be able to get an NFT drop from us to be able to have the Nebula governance token that would allow you to get into the Talent DAO. So hopefully you guys can join us on this Talent DAO. We're looking to start this DAO in the Miami space, in the Miami community, and then grow it from there. So hopefully you guys will be the earliest adopters on this Talent DAO. Okay, so next one. Yeah. And that's it, guys. So thank you so much. I'll pass it on to Stefano for closing remarks. And hopefully you guys can join us for the Talent DAO. We plan to do very exciting things there. And yeah, what better place to start than with the local Miami community that's becoming the capital of blockchain in the world. So thank you so much for your time, and I'll pass it on to Stephanie. Thank you.
Let us look at in smart contracts into this marketplace to remove intermediation and allow for monetization without that big gorilla behind, right? Intermediation. And this is the evolution of Web 2 technology to Web 3, and we're looking at creating a utility value with maybe like for everybody has done in solutions that wants to monetize without having to go to a centralized marketplace. You know, they said contracts that are going to be broken, but that's not that easy in smart contracts. Smart contracts guarantee how the resolution is going to happen, and breaking a smart contract is much harder than legal contracts. If you have money, you can break the legal contract with time. When you have a smart contract, it's a completely different value, and we're trying to bring that value to market people and protect people's values and contributions. So hopefully you can join us, and thank you very much. Next is I think Linda. Linda, are you there?
Thank you, guys.
Yes, I am. I thought we were having a panel next, but I'm.
No, unfortunately, we had some of the panel members got COVID, and
Oh no!
yeah, so that's our reality nowadays. So
Okay.
want me to walk the slides? You want me to control? What do you want?
Either way, as long as you use the active link, it should have my most recent adjustments to the deck. So if you can pull it up, that's great. If not, I'll share my screen.
I downloaded your. I can give you a control if you want to.
Yeah, actually, that might be great because if you don't mind sliding to the end of the deck, I can tell you if it has my my most recent additions or not.
Actually, you're the host, and if you want to share your screen.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do that. And are we going to do any Q&A really quickly? Maybe that would be helpful as I pull this up.
Well, I'm sorry about that. Do you guys have any questions about Nebula? Yeah. I think we're good. You can go ahead.
Actually, one, while she's buying time.
Yeah.
Where did the name Nebula come from? Because it seems very intentional. There's a reason?
Renato is the one that came up with the name. How about it?
Yeah, I mean, initially it was a play on words on Nebula and AI and finding the domain name, but over time we realized that this marketplace is going to become like a constellation of let's say nebulas, right? And it has been playing out really nicely for us because we see an opportunity to create different marketplaces for blockchain, AI, cybersecurity, and other emerging technologies. So it ended up playing really nice for us. And yeah, I think that's a little bit of how that happened. So thanks for the question.
Can you help us share the screen on that one? Yeah, Linda,
Are you guys being able to see my screen?
Yes, we're 1 second, we're sharing to another monitor your presentation.
Okay, fantastic. I'll let this stay up for a minute then while you do it. Very happy to have the opportunity to connect. I was actually hoping to come down and join in person, but some timing with my travel plans for other destinations this summer was a bit in conflict. So would have enjoyed to have the opportunity to share pizza with you all and connect directly. I know it's always much more dynamic when you have someone standing in front of you and you can feel the energy differently, but hopefully we get a little bit of the energy going, and I can communicate some things that may be perspective building and help you as you contemplate what we are seeing as the progression of Web 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 even. So this is a fun time to be an emerging technology, and it's a joy to get to explore it with you. So Problem I'm having is my screen is not advancing. There we go. Can you all see that, the future? Okay, so this is what I see as the future. I lead the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce. I'm currently vice president of the board of directors, and we're a 501c3 foundation. And you might think that I would just be here to, talk about blockchain and, everything blockchain. But I recognize that blockchains are just going to be treated as things that can be acted upon by digital agents. And the good news is they can be your digital agents. They can be my digital agents. They can be digital agents that act on the behalf of companies and even countries. And the model is both bottom up and top down. So it brings a balance. So this is what I believe the future holds for us, is not just any specific blockchain. You hear people talking about, what's going to be the Ethereum killer, what's going to be the next big. I think any of those things, those blockchains that provide the efficiencies, the security, the throughput that is needed for different business process flows, they're going to be used for the functions that they provide best. And we just need a different infrastructure to manage that. And when you're looking at this going, okay, so why should I care about these progressions of the web? We're all sitting in very similar places with a world in turmoil, and there's huge issues. I didn't love social distancing. I don't know how much any of you enjoyed that, but I heard that 6 feet was really good for being able to separate cell phones and connect them in a unique way to data grids. So we have all this fun stuff that's going on, and we have you heard it mentioned. Quite a few reasons why decentralization is important for humans, individuals. And there's a lot of imbalance. And right now we're seeing it hugely in the supply chain with shortages, supply interruptions, just a lot of pain points. And we need solutions for those pain points. And different entities see those solutions very, very differently. And so when we're looking at the model of what the web should look like, having something that is both bottom up and top down that can function simultaneously in both directions, I believe is really, really powerful, because we're always going to have countries that want purview over different aspects of their citizens' lives. And we know that across the world, that purview is handled very, very differently. And that's really not technology's choice to make. We have enabling technology, and that can enable tremendous personal freedoms. And that same technology can, in some instances, actually deprive the individual of their freedoms. So we have to understand that this is a balancing act globally, and technology is powerful. We have to recognize that there is the force for good and evil that can move the same technology in very different directions. And we're sitting here with not just blockchain, but a confluence of different technologies and this interconnectedness that's happening with all the IoT devices. And, we're literally in this development of interconnectivity, and digital ecosystems are a thing. And the question is, how are they going to be managed? How are they going to be secured? And how are they going to be used in the best interests of humanity? And so we have some issues, right? The web, it's a component piece. It's not broken, but it doesn't allow for us as human beings to have digital agency. It was designed, initially had no no structure that really even gave permissioned access. And then that was added, and we had state. And but then you get the ownership of these zones, and who controls them? Who gets to manage your digital footprint, right? We're in these silos, and say we're in the Facebook silo. There's different ways that our digital footprint in that silo is going to get used. And generally speaking, the monetization does not come to the individual human that's providing that data. And, there's issues with security, privacy. We have so many pain points, let's just say. Even if you're having the kind of the power of the platform, you have a lot of risks. You have issues with personal privacy, GDPR, in Europe. There's so many ways that we can just hit really difficult challenges in the way the current infrastructure is set. And so we need a shift. I think everybody can acknowledge that we need a shift. And what are those shifts? What are those changes that need to be made? And a point of presence is we need to have an identity that is addressable in the digital world. And that identity may look very different in different instances of the digital world. And we talk about metaverse. I think there are verses. There are not just, think about a song. That's what I kind of see this digital world being. It's the kind of the music of the spheres, where we have this multitudinous verse model that everyone's trying to kind of stake their claim, create their space that others come to, and then they can monetize it once again. So is that really a full shift? Anyway, think about that one. The services that we need, we definitely need a shift in what software is available for us to interact with, and the security needs to be improved. We have to be quantum ready. I had a friend. Did you guys see my screen just totally shift? Or are you still seeing my share?
Yes, we are, and the slide set.
It's still the slide. Okay, thank you. I was pulling up a note because I wanted to make sure that what I actually communicated was accurate. A friend shared with me that there was a quantum instance that was actually able in 9 nanoseconds to break SHA-256 encryption. And that was a little concerning. I don't know about you, but that can kind of make you feel a little uncomfortable. It's a time where we have to take a pause and ask ourselves, are we quantum ready? And it's something I'm gonna stop my share and come back in. But this is a really serious time in our history, and as we transition to a much more digital world, how that digital world is secured is critical. Because you as a human being, when the only way that you are interfacing with the majority of your business is digitally, if your digital world can be disrupted by others, you can cease to exist. We heard a little bit about, Facebook decides that, they're just going to cut you. You're not going to have your profile there anymore. Okay, that's one platform. But when this becomes interconnected and all of your digital footprint is now able to be accessed by others, what is that going to do to your personal life, to your business life? And I think it's something we all need to take really, really seriously. And I know we're going to have a presentation coming up from Threefold, and there's some really powerful technology stacks that are coming to bear to help solve for some of those problems, to reduce the attack vectors. And we need these tools and resources to really facilitate a different way of engaging digitally. And when we have this interconnectivity, when we have a cross ecosystem exchange of value that's enabled, we are going to be able to live in a different world where we truly have digital agency. And I think the time of silos is done. If your business is based on a silo giving you purview over others' data, I think you need to start rethinking it. Data is critical. And, we have the comparison to oil or gold. And, just like oil, you have to refine data, or you have to start with pure, clean, standardized data. And, we have all these IoT devices and, have all this information coming in, but velocity and volume, they do not equal the veracity or the truthfulness or true value unless they can be used appropriately. So this is a time to understand the value of our data and to start doing things differently to make sure that we are securing that, we're having confidentiality, the integrity of the data is there, and it's accessible in a permissioned manner. And blockchain can do that. It does it. There's different characteristics of public blockchains versus, private blockchain, permission, federated. There are literally thousands of blockchain instances. So if you hear anybody talking about the blockchain, please stop them and say, oh, which blockchain are you referring to? Are you talking about blockchains holistically? And if so, is what you're saying about maybe the Bitcoin blockchain also applicable to, R3 Corda? Ask these questions so that you kind of keep integrity in the blockchain conversation, because anybody who just spins the blockchain and doesn't follow it with anything that's an identifier, they're spouting concepts that they may not have clearly defined themselves. So blockchain technology, we can talk about holistically, but there's some very, very distinctive very, very distinctive differences between different blockchains. So just an awareness builder there. But Web3 using blockchain technology is working towards evolving to provide these components. It's really the CIA, that you can have personally, the confidentiality, integrity, and accessibility of your data using blockchain, very possible. But I think we have next steps to take. And Web4 connects people to systems that know. And you can consider those systems to be potentially digital agents that act on your behalf. This is the connectivity between I would say the progressive AI, not deep learning, not machine learning, not just feeding a machine massive amounts of data, applying an algorithm, and spitting out some type of insight or decision based on that. I'm talking about digital agents that can learn, like Turing's child machine, like nouns, verbs, and modifiers, and then act upon those on your behalf, managing your data securely using quantum ready or quantum proof cryptography. And this is a time to really get serious about not getting stuck in legacy blockchain implementations, but connecting to a substrate that will allow you to use any blockchain as a thing that can be acted upon for whatever purpose your business needs to use it for. So I want my data managed on my behalf. And yeah, this is Web 4-ish, but there's some people that are kind of giving it a boost to Web 5. And I thought it was interesting, even though Jack Dorsey, he got big news just this past week. He's talking about Web 5 and the personal data and identity becoming the property of third parties, having that actually coming into a decentralized identity and the data storage belonging to individuals, and letting that user experience where the ownership and identity, this sounds kind of like what we were talking about with Web 4. But I want to point you to something that was published in 2013, because I thought this was kind of funny. We've been having this conversation for a very long time, and back in May of 2013, I think it was in Springer.com, where they described Web 5.0 as the sensory and emotive web that's designed to develop the interaction with human beings and machines. And that's the relationship that really exists between a digital agent and the human that has purview over the data that agent manages. And so we're in unique times. We're calling it all sorts of things. And I'd love to just leapfrog to like Web 7 and say, okay, we're just skipping all of this debate about who's calling what, and who's trying to brand, Web 5 or Web 5.0, or, should we even say Web 3, or does it need to be Web 3.0? Should we just go to a totally different way of looking at the world and addressing it and connecting with our digital footprint, not even needing the web at all? That's what's possible with some of the emerging technology that is available. The web, it's a great tool and it can still be used, but it's not necessary for this digital agency to be possible, for us to own our data and to be able to monetize it on our behalf and allow ourselves to be accessed for, targeted advertising if we want to be, and be rewarded for it or not. So this is, awareness building. That's the point of the chamber, is to raise awareness, facilitate adoption, and inspire advocacy. And I hope you've heard a couple of things that maybe have sparked your interest, make you want to know more, keep you looking instead of settling for anything that is, we can't be stagnant right now, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We need to move forward, and this next iteration of ownership and engagement with AI and digital agents is going to shape the face of the world as we know it. And if it's supported by people who are wanting to do it in the best interest of humanity, we get that bottom-up adoption. That's where we're all going to have much more positive outcomes with our digital worlds. And I hope that those of you sitting in the room there listening are those that have the intent to help support the responsible adoption of emerging tech and see this opportunity with Web 4 or 5 or 7, whatever you want to call it, as an opportunity to shift into a future where your data is managed and producing outcomes for you that are positive. So all the best. Happy to take any questions, and just really enjoy the opportunity to connect with this group and be part of any learning that is happening. And I'm really excited to sit back and hear about the innovations that Threefold has been progressing on over the past 3 years. I've been an ambassador with them, have watched as they've grown and innovated, and it's a really fantastic reducing of the cost of compute and storage, and a really great project for you to have your awareness raised about as well. So look forward to that. I really can't hear very well, unfortunately.
Does anyone have questions at this point, Relika?
I possibly have one. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm on the way in the back. But do you want me to go up?
Yeah,
Can you hear
sure.
me better?
If you come close with the microphones there, yes. Oh, do you have one? No microphones. If you have one question for me, what's
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can hear me from this spot right here, but real quick question. If the user has complete control of their data, some people, like I'm assuming everybody in the room is very like private. There's some other people who wouldn't mind selling their data. You think the future is possibly something that people would just don't mind selling the data to, I guess, advertisers or something like that?
I absolutely think there are going to be platforms that enable that purchasing and selling of data in a really streamlined way that allow humans to make that choice. So if, for instance, your cell phone could be paid for through revenue that you earn for being willing to have your sales receipts, data scraped, then you're making that choice, right? Right now, your data, your receipts from your credit cards are data scraped and sold, and you're getting rewards from your credit card, and you're not really understanding where that connection is. You're not really getting the choice. Say, I don't want rewards because I don't want you to sell my data. That choice should be yours. And those data points are used by insurance companies to decide, how high your premium should be. Maybe they're seeing, where you're traveling to, what your purchases are. They're gathering information about you that helps them make, quote, more informed decisions. But in some cases, that can hurt you as the consumer. So yes, whenever you have something that's bottom up, that choice can be made to make that connection to a top-down infrastructure that can then take your data and use it, but you should be rewarded for it in that decision-making process.
Well, my name is Max Ramirez. I'm a professor here at Miami College. We're quid pro quo giving away data right now, free. So every time you open up an account on Facebook, TikTok, there are T's and C's, you're allowing your data to be utilized by marketers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to point out, and just first off, thank you very much for your session. Very, very cool. I want to answer your question. I work directly with a company called Encryption. It's a blockchain company. And first thing, anybody here have a 23andMe or a MyHeritage account where they do those DNA testing and stuff like that? I have my entire genealogical heritage of all my, right? But they have all my DNA data. Here's the thing, what Encryption does is they allow you to take that data back and you can actually blockchain lock it and you can sell it. Because right now what those companies do, they take all your DNA data and they sell it. They sell it, they have the monopoly of it. I gave away my DNA data. I was just stupid when I did it. But with Encryption, I actually retrieve back my data and I can actually set it up for the market. I can actually sell it. So it's exactly where you're going. It's called Encryption, ENCRYPGEN.com. You can find out more about it.
No, that's fantastic. And it is that taking back ownership of our data and our digital footprint that is very, very empowering. But what we've seen is the majority of people prefer to abdicate responsibility for their data. And I think we've got about 98% of people who are very happy to have their data used to make their user experience more personalized. And that's all well and good, but it should be a choice. And right now the choice is, do I want to use this app? And if I want to use this app, I'm abdicating my data management responsibility to another entity that can then use it however they see fit. And I'm not getting any benefit other than I'm getting to use that app. So there's a shift that's happening, and how it's managed and the user experience. It's going to be very interesting to see those component pieces over time come together. But yeah, I think the creator economy is going to benefit from this shift, and blockchain is a huge part of it.
Any other questions?
If we are giving back,
Can you come, because otherwise it's expiring. Sorry. We'll have a.
so what I understand by victory is giving back the power to the people rather than a decentralized entity. But my question is then, what will be the business strategy for all the centralized platform, or even the people or the businesses who are investing heavily in the blockchain? So what will be like the point of making profit for those entities who are actually investing in this technology? Because ultimately we are giving back the power to the people. That's my question.
I think I got that question. What I'm hearing you ask is, what's the benefit for investing in blockchain-based infrastructures that are data gathering and able to use that data on behalf of the company? Was that the question?
Yes, that was
Okay. Yeah. Business models evolve over time, and companies that have been set up with a business model that can only work if they're taking advantage of others' data without paying for it in some way, in my opinion, they deserve to no longer function as a viable business product. If they are able to adjust and share some of those profits with the people from whom they're gathering that data, then it would seem appropriate that their business model continues as is. There's cannibalistic business models. There always have been, and we're going to see a shift to the value of data going to the creators of that data, or whomever they release that data to, and it's time to evaluate your business model and decide if it's going to be one that can move forward, especially with things that are happening in the European Union and the privacy laws that are adding to GDPR. You need to have some awareness of how that might impact business models that are taking advantage of people's data, in many cases without their awareness of how that data is being used. And it's just time to raise your awareness about that and possibly do business differently. And there's going to be investment into models that do business in a way that respects humans, their rights, their data. And I think it's a really good shift. We had periods of time where, just throwing your plastic in the ocean was good business, right? Because you weren't burning it, and you were getting rid of it, and it wasn't cluttering the streets. And now we're recognizing that, we have to be not just human centric, but world centric, understand how we're, affecting our greater ecosystem, and people are shifting their business models. And I think it's a really important thing to recognize that with data, the shift of business models is going to need to occur.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm looking forward to your talk.
Hey, good. I'm about to say good morning. My time. I'm so sorry. How are you all?
Great.
Awesome.
Let me promote you as a presenter.
And make sure his audio is clear. It's a little on the lower side, volume wise. Can I hear you, Wayne?
I can. Hello.
Perfect. Sounding good.
You have. I think. Are you able to present? So I don't have a way to promote him as.
Yeah, I think I was very late with sharing. I can share from here if you allow me.
Yeah. Are you able to share?
Not yet. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. I did send an email not too long ago with the URL, but if
Sometimes what happens, on the bottom where it says share, sometimes it lets you allow multiple participants. Like, see if it's this one, over on the green. I'm gonna go try from the other room.
Disable participant, is it? Disable participant, screen share.
Leave that in your folder.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Can we ask you to relinquish
Stop
your
sharing,
host,
yeah.
your host role, please?
Sure.
That's right, because Linda is supposed to drag.
Let's see, Linda host more. Linda, are you there?
Yes, I just made Wayne and co-host. My apologies.
Thank you.
there we go. Thank you so much.
Are we good? Go ahead. Thank you very much, Wayne, for joining us. Welcome.
Hello, thank you all for having me. I'm going to present the project I'm part of, which is called Threefold. And what we're doing and what we're pushing for is actually to help the world to become a more decentralized place. And there's lots of fantastic initiatives out there that do that on many different levels. And we've decided that we need and want to focus on a very, very basic level. It's the level of actually the plumbing and the infrastructure that you need in order to push for that. And if you allow me, I'd like to take you to a journey of about 20 minutes in terms of explaining to you what that is. And I'd like to start with where I started. And again, I'm showing my age here, but when I started to use the internet, and I think it has been mentioned before, I just came out of university as a rocket scientist, and the only way for me work with really good people in the US was to actually share data about what it is that we did as rocket scientists and building space technology. And that was doing it, sharing data, sharing research, sharing papers, but it was done from your computer to the other scientist's computer. And again, you had to know, I mean, this was the early days, end of the 80s, early 90s. You almost had to know the IP address of the other scientist's computer to be able to share your data. And again, the data was stored locally. You had to install, very technical, some early version of what a web server was, and then you could share data. And this was really point to point, people to people, and actually allowing to share data. And if then, and I know this has been presented before, but if you then consume to go where we are today, then actually in the current version of the internet, we're not able to do that anymore. I mean, right now, we're all going through so-called third parties. We're using services to share data. And I think if we'd like to dream forward and we talk about this decentralized world, we need to go from being a consumer of the internet and actually have a direct connection with another consumer of the internet without that third party involved. And for us, that is starting with having technology that we no longer depend on these third parties to bring us these services, and that make us conveniently share data. And again, I'm sure it's been discussed before, and not have to worry about, because that is the difference between being a scientist and being a consumer. I mean, the scientists were able to do all of that because it is technical and it does come with responsibility, but we need to go back to that beginning where we're able to do so, but not necessarily without all of the complications. And that's what I'm trying to bring forward here, that we've worked on it. And again, Same thing as what was said before. There's 1.0, 2.0, there's Web 3.0, where we're now. We'd like to get back to what the beginning was, and that is that you should be able to actually share from a perspective of being a person, being involved and wanting to share data, but not necessarily having to go through a third party. So again, sometimes we call it jokingly, what about calling it Web.0? Because we have to go all the way back to where it started. And again, whether we call it 3 or 4 or 5, that's not the point here. The point is that we've gone through this circle and this development where really I'm not here to say that the internet hasn't done a lot of good for us, and that initial version of it, sharing between people, was better than where we ended up now. But I believe that we need to start presenting that same ideology, that same method of having people sharing data with others without intervention of third parties, and that's what we're doing. So part of a movement, part of a group that actually presents a technology stack, which is not necessarily looked at a lot because it's really low level, is really almost down in the trenches of what the internet is. And it really has looked at, why can't we go back in a way that we can involve everyone to become part of this internet? And then we call it today the Internet of Internets, because it's not going to be one. It's going to be many. It's going to be many people providing services to many other people. I mean, again, like I said in that very simple slide in the beginning, that's what it was. And we believe that we have to go back to it. And that means that we no longer have to depend on large data centers with all of these technicians in there, with all of this technology in there. We'd like to go and present a technology stack that allows people to do it from the convenience of their home, from the convenience of their community hall, from the convenience of their university or school. I mean, again, that's also where it started. And then this technology stack needs to be able to carry the real workloads and the real innovation and the real progress that we spoke about and that we know of and that we want to have. So yes, blockchain is part of that. Yes, the metaverse is part of that. Yes, looking forward, Web 3.0 is part of it. Yes, what we know today is part of that. And then last but not least, all of the devices that we want to use to, again, monitor ourselves, monitor our lives, need to be part of it as well. Because again, we love data. We just don't want to depend on third parties actually providing the services for it and providing us with the convenience. And I'm going to get to a little bit more nerdiness in a few minutes in terms of how we can do that. But what we believe is if we go back to that original state where people provide both the ability and the capability of storing data, but also sharing data, and also allowing certain processes to compute that data, then what we get is we go back to something that is sovereign. It's us. We control it as individuals, as people. It is decentralized by design because it's by people for people. I'll highlight the fact that it is a lot more secure, because what we forget is that we today depend on these large organizations that have done and are doing a very good job in terms of presenting us with convenience and services. But yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of people that are looking into what we do, have our data, they have our behavior and all sorts of things. It's going to be a lot more private. It's going to be a lot more, believe it or not, cost efficient, because having these large data centers and having these large concentrations of technology and people has a certain price to it, and that's just a fact. Once we get to that state where we can have a model that people present capacity, that people present compute and storage to other people, it's endlessly scalable if we do it right. And we'll see how we are moving forward towards doing that. it has to be autonomous, because once you want to be by people for people, you cannot rely on people actually maintaining the base layer of it. What is done in these large data centers is very complex. I mean, I ran around data centers for a very long time with screwdrivers, and it's a complicated game. I mean, it starts simple, day one, but day 365 or day 700, that whole data center is not a simple thing anymore. It becomes really complicated once things start to go wrong, and once people start to have to intervene and start making decisions about what to do to repair. And again, the answer to the solution is not to make the system that manages that better, but the answer to the solution there is not to have people involved to do so. So again, autonomy there is a key thing. And then that system of actually managing and maintaining and orchestrating and having those large data centers being orchestrated by infrastructure, by systems, is not very green. It does require a lot of overhead in terms of computers controlling computers, and therefore it's not very sustainable. Again, taking those control elements out of it are going to make it carbon neutral, if not carbon negative. And again, we'll touch on that a little bit later on. So what's the model? And again, very complex picture that speaks about how to do this. But what this tries to say is that at this point in time, we cannot yet, we have to find the right project, but we cannot yet actually get rid of those centralized networks, because something that people not necessarily realize is that the whole internet in terms of the networking side is very centralized. I mean, there's only a few players today that carry the biggest parts of the traffic that is flowing on the internet. It used to be telcos. Right now it's no longer telcos. Again, Facebook, Google, all of those large players on the internet content space are putting cables into the seas, connecting the continent of Africa, are putting cables into the sky, Starlink, to actually even put the telcos out of business of doing it. And that is a thing which is ongoing, for which we don't necessarily have an answer. But we have focused on actually the content storage and the data processing part of the internet, where, again, those elements of it, which is only half of the total problem, actually are in need of looking at it. And then at the bottom part of all of this, again, like I said, it's going to be by people for people. So we need to have technology available that allows computers, because in the end we need computers, we need CPUs, we need disks. I mean, very nerdy, but we need that to store and process data. But we don't need those devices, we don't need those components to be in the hands of a few organizations. So devising a technology stack that can allow anybody to participate from the ground up to actually create that data processing and data storage capability is a starting point. And then we still need to roll it up in terms of, we call it a community internet, where a community can create almost, and again, I'm going to repeat this a few times, almost like a solar panel, where we start to create electricity that we need ourselves on the rooftops that we have. And if we don't need it, we push it back into a grid, and the grid distributes it back to others that do need it, neighbors, people in the community, people in the same city, people far away. I mean, that's how that works. And we believe that the future of the internet is to also augment what is there today with data processing and data storage capabilities that do the same thing. They're generated locally. It's going to be consumed locally, partially. And then the rest of it is going to be shared out to the rest of it. So that's why this high-level diagram says we're going to be creating that on a community basis. And we're going to be able to share that through those networks that exist with other communities nearby, but also far away. That's where the term Internet of Internets comes from. And again, there's a lot of details that need to be looked into and that need to be done. But in the end, the neighborhood cloud is something in your neighborhood where people can actually have either existing hardware or new hardware be part of a grid that builds up local capacity to store and compute data. That sort of moves into what we refer to as a regional internet, which is controlled by, and again, this is where blockchain comes into the equation, because it has to be controlled by, if you want to go autonomous, and we'll touch on it a little bit later, then you still need to store data, you still need to have a ledger, and you still need to have execution of smart contracts that actually control what workloads are being deployed and what workloads are being destroyed, right? So that is all done in regional networks. Those regional networks have their own chains, have their own presenters of capacity and their own consumers of capacity, and then it rolls up into something that is more of a global thing, where there is the control over all of those regional internets that says, yes, this is still all in line with what needs to be done, and once there are applications, once there are storage solutions, once there are architectures that need to be spanning multiple regional internets, they actually work and they are actually being controlled by that. So it's a leveled approach where you have local capacity being generated and shared on a global level. What do we need in order to do so? Because that was a big picture, but let's now go down to details. And details in this case are that we need a different kind of computer. We need a different kind of generator where it's no longer dependent on smart people controlling it. It's depending on itself. And I used the analogy to solar panels earlier, but it needs to be almost like a solar panel because they're relatively autonomous. They don't care about what is next to them. They don't care about who is using electricity produced by them. They care about producing good electricity and sending it into the grid. So what we're all about is to have an operating system, again, a technical approach to it, that exposes everything in a device. Again, that can be owned by anybody, but exposes everything that sits inside that device and shares it out to whoever wants to consume it. There's no need for people to actually be able to log into it, to make changes, to tell it what to do. It's there to be executing on stuff, like I said earlier, that is being described in smart contracts and that need to be deployed, that need to be created on a certain level. So these are autonomous operating systems. Again, a local keyboard, a local screen, local people cannot do anything with it because that's what we've taken out. We don't need that. We don't want that. But we do want that device to become part of this community internet, of this regional internet, and present the capabilities, small, medium, large. I mean, you get those devices in many flavors, and we definitely need the owners of the device not to have to do anything, because that is a limiting factor in terms of where these devices can exist. So these devices are there, they download the OS, not installed on a local disk, they have the ability to communicate with a chain, and they have the ability to receive instructions from smart contracts that are there to deploy applications. Very simple in the end. That allows everybody and anybody to participate, and there's a model around rewards there that actually incentivizes these people to become so-called farmers. And we didn't like the word mining, that's why we call them farmers. And the farming bit is completely decoupled with the consumption bit. So if people decide that they want to be part of this and create this regional and community-based internet, then 100% of the rewards that they receive to be so and to do so is done by becoming a farmer, which in the end is super simple because there is no administrative or operational workload to do. It's just that you become part of this community or regional internet, and you actually are producing capacity for people to consume. That's it. That's all you do. If you want to go further, if you really want to start consumption and consuming those capacities as well, you do need some skills, because that's where it becomes technical, and that's where, as complicated as it is today to launch anything on any of the major cloud providers, that's where you have to start being technical and consuming it, and then the world is your playground, because you can do anything that you can do in those major clouds again. And then where does the magic start? And maybe too much for now, and I'm being mindful of the time as well. Once you've got that grid and that sea of capacity available to you, you can actually build something that is storing data in a way that what we call is quantum safe looking forward. So encryption, compression, all good, we use them, but it's not the only thing we use. We go one step further and actually describe the data after it's being fragmented, compressed, and encrypted. It's truly peer-to-peer, because all of these members of that grid can actually communicate directly to each other, from your home to my home, from my university to your university. Every device in itself is a contributor to a large sea of capacity and a large grid and fabric that makes up this capacity. Network is definitely something that is impacting speed before questions come later. And that's why you as an architect of sitting on top of this grid and actually deploying applications need to think about it. Do I need speed in terms of applications communicate to each other? Then it's very likely and very desirable that you select hardware that is close together and well connected. If you don't care too much about that, you can spread it out and you can create a higher level of reliability, because it's over multiple cities or even over multiple continents, right? And then to stitch it all together, we've built something that actually allows direct connections between the actual devices, and it allows you to connect one virtual machine to another over an overlay network, encrypted and compressed, to make it efficient. So we've thought about all of that. I'll jump over this in terms of the matter of time. What does it look like if we look at it from a slightly higher level perspective? Because I talked a lot about that bottom layer where there is this sea of capacity being created. It's by people, for people, and then again, it's in many different formats. It's people that have a single device on a coffee table. It's people that decide to want to have a rack full of these devices in data centers. It's schools and universities that decide that they want to dedicate a part of what they have as access capacity towards this. And it's these days new property built projects where they build housing and community projects and build into that physical property also a little bit of compute and storage capability based on the price you pay for the property, in that way expanding it. So we're looking at expanding it into wind farms, solar farms. I mean, everywhere where in the end you've got some reliable form of electricity and connectivity, and we enable these devices. Again, multiple owners, many people participating, not driven by a single ownership unity. And moving a little bit to the top layer, so this is very much plumbing, right? This is plumbing the world in a different way with compute and storage capabilities than how it's being done today, because in our humble opinion, it's too complicated. It's something that actually needs to be done in a different way. And then there's two major use cases that allow you to consume this. On the right-hand side, it's all of the standard ways that people consume existing clouds. I mean, Docker, Kubernetes, Terraform, all of the leading technologies today have actually got an interface or an API or a way to consume this other cloud as well. And that allows you to basically specify, I want to use this device in this particular region, and I want to use a number of logical cores, a number of gigabytes of memory, and a number of gigabytes of digital storage space on the disk. Really finite way of specifying where you want your data processed and where you want your data stored. That's for developers, for application developers. On the left-hand side, this allows you, and that's something that we're working on and completing over the next couple of months. It also allows you to create your own digital self, digital twin, and have your own storage space, which, going back to the beginning, that is where we believe, going back to the scientist and consumer, that if and when we give an easy way for people to create their own digital space, allow them to store their own digital data, then they can be the master of their own destiny online. They can be the master of what do you want with your digital data to happen. And it is, in the end, as simple as managing your own home. You still decide who comes in, who looks at your art, who looks at your pictures that you have on the wall, who looks at your photo books, if you have any physical photo books left. You can do the same kind of access control in the digital world if you own your own data, if you have your own digital space, which is sovereign. And again, it begins with this plumbing where those devices that you use to have that digital home are autonomous, don't have owners that have system administration access that can control it and that can look at what is stored in there. If you eradicate that and you have digital devices like solar panels that create raw capacity, and you have software that is simple enough to create a digital home, let's call it online, and allow people to see, allow people to have access to your digital data, you can control who you want there and who you don't want there. That is what we're striving at. That's what we're aiming at. We're not there, but in the coming weeks, months, we'll have some announcements there that we have that facility available. So where are we today? There's thousands of devices out there in a number of countries where people, and again, it's not us owning it, it's people owning it, it's people actually presenting capacity, and this is now fast expanding where people are. And even today, I was interacting with somebody in the Central African Republic, which is dead center in that picture of Africa, which again is bringing up one node, so it's not a massive amount of capacity, but it is happening, and it is. These numbers look big, or at least look big to me, and I'll be waiting for your response later on, but they're nowhere yet in comparison to what major clouds present. So we've got a long and a way to go, but we're seeing increased uptake of people wanting to make a difference. And my whole speech here is not to replace what is out there today, but to embrace another way of actually presenting compute and storage capabilities next to what we have already, and which has brought us to where we are today, which is fantastic. But I think the world is ready to have a complementary, more towards the edge, if I can use that word, from people, by people, as a model to deliver capacity. And we're going fast and we're going strong. And again, there is a digital currency involved, which again is growing in terms of this. Thank you so much. I think this is the end of me. Yeah, that's the last slide. I'll be happily asking or happily answering your questions.
So does anyone have questions? Go ahead.
I have one question. Noticing on your token, TFT, it says TFT is scarce. Is there a limit to the number of TFTs that will be created?
There is, but what is more important, and the number is 4 billion, which is a number. As I said, presenting and creating capacity is diverse completely with consuming capacity. So creating the token, it's a true utility. So it's really like air miles, right? You fly, you collect air miles. In this case, you present capacity, you collect TFTs. When you want to consume this capacity, you have to get TFTs. Then there is, and it's a bit complicated, but there's 35% of those tokens that are being consumed are burnt. None of the tokens that actually are being used to reserve capacity end up with the people owning the device. Again, regulations make it simple if you do it like that, because then you are a utility token, just like an airline and air miles. And it's a methodology where the more it gets used to consume capacity, the more it gets burnt, and the more ends up actually not being in circulation anymore. I mean, that's the whole play. This is not meant to be, I'd like to stipulate and articulate very loudly, this is not meant to be this highly appreciative token. It's really meant to be a utility token that allows you to consume, again, in your local neighborhoods, create a local economy where local people devise, I don't know, a local social platform, start storing data locally, right? It's meant to do that. Again, it is digital. Why? Because it makes it easy for everybody to participate. That's the play we have.
Thank you. You have a question? Yeah, if you come, it's a little bit easier because we have the microphones there. So.
Thank you so much. This was my favorite presentation so far because of the depth of the technicality that you have gone into. So I'm from I am from FIU. I am doing my master's at in computer science. So in my previous semester, I took a subject called mobile computing. So I found a lot of similarity that I have learned in that class. So what I can understand, the regional internet that you mentioned, is it using mobile ad hoc network for for getting rid of third-party internet service and getting our own internet or something like that? Or you are just renting out other devices and giving them some token like Helium token does right now?
So it's a very good question, and I hope I articulated in the beginning, what we do is at this point in time half the solution to the problem, right? Because the devices, the autonomous operating system, all of what we do still requires connectivity, and the connectivity question or the connectivity problem, however you want to put it, is a very different one. And we're aligning ourselves with many other projects, including Helium, that are looking towards solutions to build out meshed networks that can extend existing commercial networks. But it's not something that we're focusing on. But we're seeing more and more interest in actually working with us or building combined solutions around universities, where we reach out into the community around the university, where devices might exist in the community houses or university data center. And luckily, there's many projects out there that focus on networking and not on the compute and data storage. So we'll find those partners to work with, and for, again, use cases, for regions, for areas where networking is not yet fully fledged or is not yet good enough. We're really now finding ways through mobile, through meshed Wi-Fi, through sometimes satellites, through, in the end, for us, it doesn't matter as long as we can get networking delivered to the device in a cabled way. And again, there's many devices out there that present mobile or Wi-Fi to cable, then we're good to go. So we need to figure out what works best for certain regions and what is available and what not. But again, it's a beautiful world out there with many innovators, and we're finding them. We're finding more of them on a weekly basis.
Yeah, thank you. So I got your point of focus now. So my focus was going somewhere else, which is mobile ad hoc where in the desert or where it's very difficult to get the networks to. So how to establish a local network there within the local devices, which has many many challenges, like establishing the connection, and availability is a very great concern on that. So I got what your exactly point of focus, right? Thank you for answering.
Thank you so much.
Do you have any other questions in the audience? Yes, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, thank you for that explanation. As far as the time I've been in this space, this is probably one of the most technical that I connect with, because I deal with home automation, commercial automation, and in those designs that we do, we set up local DNS servers. We have mesh networks. So within these properties, we have these functional networks, which, as soon as you said this, I connect with that, and I understand that what you're explaining is simply at a larger scale of what we currently do in a smaller scale, right? So it comes down to the actual hardware that can support the distances between these homes in neighborhoods and communities. So then the question is, are the leaders in this space reaching out to companies like Cisco, like IBM, like Motorola, to say, hey, we have a demand for this type of mesh networking gear?
Yes and no. I've been fortunate enough to be part of a few projects to be involved with underserved communities in the US, with HBCUs, with a number of different, let's say, entities in the US, and most of them are looking for solutions not involving, because again, they've had their, and again, this might sound negative, but I don't mean it in any way negative. They've had their opportunity to be involved in this, and they haven't done it to date. So what we're seeing is that extending well-connected locations, because in the end, that's what it is. If you talk about networking, right? Universities are usually well-connected across the globe. Large cities are usually well connected, or at least parts of it, right? Extending it then into the rest of those communities and areas around it for purposes of being part of the internet and consuming it, so serving it, surfing it in the sense of consuming web content, or being part of what we do, where you become part of the delivery of content and data storage. It's the same thing in the end. And again, large commercial organizations have made the decisions what their market and their target is, and sometimes you find gaps where they either have not found an investor that wants to deploy it in that particular area, or where it's just been not interesting enough. So love to, if and when possible, talk with you about what those opportunities are and see if there is a match in the partner base and the project base that we talk to. Again, there's lots of projects in the US I've recently learned over the last 3 months that are looking into extending good network connectivity into areas by using mesh Wi-Fi and having those discussions with the local people. But again, I don't know why those large organizations and brands that you mentioned have not yet found ways of doing it. I don't have that answer. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other question? Yeah, just come.
Can you hear me from here? I don't mean to take the stage or whatever. You can hear me this thing now.
Can you hear him? Wait a minute.
Okay.
Yes. It's unfortunately.
I thought I saw a mic still open.
Yeah, but I don't think they're active, unfortunately.
Okay. Hi, so I'm from Octopus Network, and I was actually looking to connect with you guys. We have a significant need for small-scale substrate nodes, and we love that you guys are using substrate for some orchestration in the back. So I wonder, what do you think is the capacity for automating substrate nodes with 0OS at a smaller scale, 2 CPU cores, not too much storage, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, good question. Thank you for it. We're a play that is not competing with many projects out there. Since what we do and what we present is so low level that sort of the whole world forgot that this is needed. And again, I love the fact that everybody is thinking upstack or upstream in terms of applications and blockchains and user experiences and metaverse and whatever you want to have as a presentation. But it all starts, and again, showing age here, but it all starts with having availability to CPUs in the end and data storage devices. And we really believe that there is a need today to find another way than to pack high density CPU and storage devices into one very small location and connect it very well to the world, because that's what's happening, right? These data centers are becoming more powerful by the day, and the cables connecting them to the rest of the world and us as consumers and users is getting fatter every day as well, which works. I mean, there's nothing showing today that it will fail, but fast forward it and take the amounts. I mean, you cannot service the global community of 8 billion people with just, I don't know, what is it? Hyperscale data centers, maybe 1,000 globally. I mean, it just doesn't work, right? I mean, you can imagine doing the same thing in electricity with only 1,000 power stations serving the whole globe. I mean, that doesn't scale. So long answer to a short question. We'd love to have every piece of software, and I think it was one of the slides, but I deleted the sentence, as long as it runs on Linux, it can run on this grid. As long as it has the ability to be using a Linux kernel to do what it needs to do, we're good to go, which I think is still 90+% of the applications out there that actually runs on us. And blockchains, yes. Any other use case that you can imagine actually can be decentralized by this and run in a way as people in those projects wanted to run. So happily.
I know better than most about the sort of data center problem, carrier hotel problem, beacon chain problem. I just got out of the Fortune 500 for this. So I really appreciate the work that Threefold is doing, and I've reached out to you on the side, so I'd love to discuss this with you on the side.
Thank you for that comment. I really appreciate you saying it. Thank you.
Excellent work at Threefold. Thank you.
Any more questions for Threefold? So, thank you very much for such a wonderful presentation. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Web3 and decentralization is changing how we're going to do business, whether it's data centers or connectivity or processing or even talent and solutions. So I think it's a good place to start Web3 for businesses, for solutions, for investment of development. So hopefully this was a useful session for you guys. Wayne, and would you mind providing the link to your website, or telling us how they can reach your facility, your information?
No problem. How do you want me to do that?
If you can give us, I guess, describe what the website you have, and it's threefold.io, I believe it is.
Yeah, that's the simplest starting point. So threefold, threefold.io.
So for anyone that's interested in that technology, I think that threefold is going to change how data centers and connectivity is going to happen. And that provides a beautiful way of going to decentralization technologies that can benefit and move away from centralized data centers as well. So, Wayne, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It was a great presentation. So, thank you
Thank you
guys
so
for
much.
coming. And hopefully this was good. Thank you. With that, we conclude the session for today. Thank you. Thank you, Wayne.